and so on. So this research was follow-up for our fake news research, and we decided to dig in social media in the terms of abilities to collect actionable threat intelligence and information related to situation awareness. So the research was done by me and Fyodor. We're working for the same team, and maybe you can ask why Fyodor is not here. There was some serious reason for it. 2 days ago, he looked like that. So he was unable to go. It's a bit of joke, but it's a real picture several days ago. He met motorbike riding bicycle. So all good. It was just coincidence. So we will cover several topics. So some ideas how to collect information, which information is really important, how to dissect information, when you have a huge volume of information in social media. And we will cover several case studies related either malware campaigns, some campaigns related to the events which are ongoing now or was recently, kind of situational awareness. So why this thing is really important? So it is possible to use this information to collect actionable threat intelligence, but most important, I think the threat landscape moving into not just cyber, what we had with malware, but cyber where it tends to affect the reputation of the corporations of the countries or of the critical events. So we will show several examples related to malware, how to collect threat intelligence, but several examples will be dedicated topic related to the reputation. So how to collect data. So most research was done using Twitter data, and Twitter have thing called Firehose, and it generally shares around, I think, 1% of tweets for free, or there is option to jump into paid API and get more data. The process in general is extract the slices, because the volume of information is really huge. So usually before doing any research, you should narrow the topic. So you can do research what discussions about CVE, what discussions about exploitation, attacks in the wild, and so on. So when you importing data into some platform which allow you to do some analysis like Elasticsearch, enrich the data, and when you do data analysis. So a lot of things was done actually in combination of Elasticsearch and Python notebook. So here you can see example of slices we made in last several months. So some slices related to 0 days, CVEs, some slices related to our topics. So, but generally, as long as you have a flight, you have restricted data volume, where you can try to find dependencies and highlights. And this is the real illustration from Fyodor, how he consider massaging the data. So it was drawn by pen during one of the team meetings. So regarding a stage of enrichment data, we use several toolkits and several proprietary code. So for example, when you're analyzing phrases, on some languages you don't need the suffixes, because you can get 20 words out of 100 which mean the same, and just have the different prefixes and suffixes. So it's necessary to do some kind of combine combine data from Twitter with data from our sources like threat intelligence platforms to get more information. I think like many of visualizations done like in Elasticsearch using World Cloud, and some visualizations done with using Python libraries in Python Notebook. So this is a rough example related to context of CV. So we can see like CV and the words that describe CV at particular period of time. Like sometimes it's like execution, remote execution. So you can see that it's remote code execution vulnerability. Sometimes it's bypass and so on. But this is just an example. So let's go to some more interesting examples. So what happened if you visualize CV in particular day? You can see the context. So CV, the bigger word here, like CVE, like the more times it appeared in the Twitter. So it's like the most discussed word here. So, some words are stripped with the libraries, but you can see like a context for the CVEs what was discussed. So in some cases, you can see, for example, botnet. So it's a CVE which like exploited in the wild. Sometimes you can see patch released. Sometimes it's used for DDoS attacks, malware, and so on. And for example, here is like Oracle related vulnerability. Another type of visualization is really, really interesting. So in this case, it's called a sunburst diagram. And we can see which CVEs was discussed with which Twitter handles. So if you have, for example, infrastructure which is like Linux based, you can filter the list of CVEs related to Linux and found the accounts which discussing this topic. So the next time you will need threat intelligence information related to CVE which are potentially dangerous for your environment, you can just filter information from particular Twitter handles. So another interesting thing, like many security researchers tweeting about the same, and you can track like 2,000 people at the same time. So this is the visualization of the Twitter flows, and you can see, for example, that everything that posted with these accounts was almost immediately reposted by account security news bot. So instead of following like 10 accounts, you can follow particular account which will show you this almost the same feed at about the same time. So you can save the time, like in the terms of analyzing the data, which is like discussed at particular time. So here is the different example. So example, related to this tweet about a vulnerability in Confluence. And this is a visualization like of CVs and keywords, like the top keywords describe it particular CVE. So without reading any bulletins, you can understand the context of the vulnerability. So for example, here you can see like CVE, and you can see like Firefox, keywords Firefox, argument discarded, execution. So you know what is vulnerability related to Firefox, and it's related to execution. Or like here you can see like privilege escalation. It's systemd. So instead of looking into a bunch of bulletins and read like, I don't know, like 20 papers, you can just draw the diagram and spend 2 minutes to understand like situation awareness related to CVEs, discuss it in particular day. So, and if you look into this vulnerability related to Confluence, we can see like the similar context. And we decided to dig deeper into this topic and into this particular CVE. And this is example of this is the timeline of which Twitter accounts discussed this vulnerability and at what time. So you can find like who was the first several accounts who spotted these vulnerabilities and discussed. So you can prioritize these accounts for the next steps if you want to follow. And more interesting, you can dig deeper. So I think like everybody aware about kill chain. So like the different stages of attack, which attacker are doing like to reach the goal. But we map almost the same thing for the same vulnerability. So we draw a keywords over the time, which was mostly discussed in the context of this vulnerability. And initially it was like CVE vulnerability, and at the end it switched like exploitation here, IS-DOS, bots, and attacks. So if you filter some words, you can see that at the beginning it's just discussion of the vulnerability, and this is the active phase of attacks. And what happened here? So here I think was the hard work of criminals to weaponize this vulnerability and use it. So for this particular case, you can see about a week. It took about a week to weaponize vulnerability, starting from the first mention on the public media. In some cases, it can take like several hours or like 24 hours. So this is quite big interval to prepare. And this is your opportunity window to prepare your infrastructure for potential attacks related to a new vulnerability which was discovered. Where easy ways like the people usually starting with monitoring like non-automatic monitoring of Twitter accounts and using keywords like exploited, like CVE, 0-day, or like IOC or threat intelligence. You can find meaningful words, meaningful posts that can be used in your job to protect particular infrastructures. And it's interesting that we are not alone in this topic. So I think this talk was announced at the middle of September. And we found this Twitter IOC website, which published threat intelligence collected from Twitter. And it's interesting that the site was registered just 2 weeks ago. So it's really good to see that community use the similar approaches to gather low-hanging fruits from social media to protect your infrastructures. So in our case, actually, like in our case study, it's malware on Twitter. So before we discuss like how to collect threat intelligence and indicators, but in some cases we have another situation. So does anybody can understand what is here? Nothing. Okay. So this account was used by Anubis malware. And if you look into the code of malware, you can see this mention inside the code, like the coded Java. And this is actually a bunking Trojan, which uses Twitter accounts to exfiltrate C2 information. So it was kind of intermediate command and controls. Twitter was used as a kind of intermediate command and control server. And like information about active C2 was posted at several accounts like we had shown at the beginning. This person was actually probably unlucky because later we saw the news that a Trojan creator was arrested and we didn't spot this activity for the several months after that. In our case, it's a use of images posted on Twitter for provide information about or next stages of payload for malware. So this is one of the examples when avatars was used to decode information which was used to malware. So malware looked for a particular hashtags and loaded in images, and image contained like a steganography encoded data which was used by malware to act at the next stages. And Twitter is not the only network which can use it as an intermediate C2, with so many platforms, including blogs. So this is like Russian social network VK. This is the code for Xloader, which actually use like VK, Twitter, Kuzon, and like some other media platforms. This is not the single case, and Twitter is not the only social network which use it as an intermediate command and control server. So this is example for blogspot.com. So these two topics was related to pure IT security, and now we will touch some topic which suitable for more broader auditory. So it's brand and reputation issues and social mood. So we made several slices related to airports over the world, and when we dig into particular cities to see like what is situation on the airport, because like many of us traveling a lot, so we want to know if we go, for example, to Istanbul now, like how good is the situation. And on the left you can see the situation in Manchester airport, and there was a problem with refueling the planes, and we can see very negative mood. It's like grounded, refueling, delays, and so on. And this is the normal situation, for example, in Taipei airport. So when it's like positive moods, positive situation, like welcome it, heading, so nothing negative here. And if you look like if you found this kind of visualization for the particular airport, there is a big chance that if you look into the news about the situation, you can see the reason for this. So for example, like when several thousand persons just stayed in the airport, where might be a reason for the bad mood. And this is interesting situation when Korean pop star arrived into the airport, and you can see, I think like this is the star name, like a fashion airport. And if you see like accounts, like the post around, it doesn't look really readable. And this looks really suspicious, and there is a high chance that this pop star promoted herself, like a media campaign which provide promotion services for him, use it kind of artificial accounts in Twitter just to pump up the situation, like to show like the presence. And we draw the situation in Abu Dhabi airport for the last 3 days. We not show this here. But the thing is, Korean language prevalent now somehow in the context of Dubai airport. Maybe another pop star is coming. So this is the general situation in airports for the last 3 days. So it mostly like discussion like about memories, about something like exclusively and so on. So the mood is positive. And this is situation with the combination of airport and Putin. It's like security, President Saudi, because it's in Saudi Arabia now. He was in Saudi Arabia yesterday, and so on. And actually, my name is here, but Putin have the same name, unfortunately. Yeah. So reputation abuses. So in spring this year, It was an interesting campaign. It was a bit untouched, like in foreign media, but where is the biggest meat producer in Russia? And he's commented about idea of government to disable like Spanish jamon and like different, like importing all the meat and all meat products into Russia because we can produce everything local. And the CEO of this company say, yeah, it will be good for the local business. And this ended up with kind of protest campaigns when many restaurants declined to buy products from this company. And if you look into visualization of the situation, like opposition, this is like one of Russian opposition leaders, push it really hard on this topic, like anti-government ideas. And this is a visualization of just one spot at this big diagram. So if you look into account names, which has been used, it's really hard to pronounce. So if, for example, if you have a friend and your friend asks you, like, can you give me a Twitter handle? So can you read this Twitter handle and say, like, yes, my Twitter handle is this? And your friend will type this. So it looks pretty easy, yeah? And so in many cases, when you dig into like highly discussed situation, we can see this kind of accounts, which often recently created, participating in this discussion. So another thing about artificial activities, it's almost always is isolated. So it's usually like this kind of spot of highly connected nodes. And often it's like just one or two nodes to the bot master to get like a commands what to tweet next. So, and for example, like one of the accounts participated in these campaigns. In this campaign, we just checked it like several weeks ago, and Twitter says this account doesn't exist. But Google stores something, so if you use the same keywords, you can see like a Google results where this account existed before. So a campaign was done. There is no reason to keep this account because it was too noisy, so account was removed, and now people trying to pretend what this never happened. So if you not store the data, it will be really hard to reconstruct the situation and prove that something strange happened. So another hot topic in the Twitter, it's tech support or like support calls. So we spot a lot of advertisement related to many companies with the advertisement content, like if you have a problem with printer, call this number. If you have problem with Windows, call the same number, but it's tweeted by another account. So if you have problem with fridge, you should call the same number, or like it's like at any day it was like 5-10 numbers and like 30 topics, 30 types of problems and vendors, which we try to solve. So here are just a couple of examples, and here is a visualization of the situation. So you can see like different brands and accounts which promote like word tech support advertisement for different brands, and sometimes it's crossing like among vendors. So and this kind of visualization can give you a very fast situation and awareness about particular problem. In this case is a tech support scam. Yeah, so for example, this account promoted number to solve the problem with like many printer vendors. And the thing is, if you call this number, so we tried actually to call these numbers, and the thing is, people so train it. So we realized we have a problem with Windows, so can you assist us? And we told, from where are you calling? They're like, from LA. And I asked it like, what time is it LA? And we spent like 10 seconds to understand the LA time zone, and I just dropped it, the call. Because we do sanity tests, and we was social engineered many times. So you can find video on the YouTube. So on the YouTube, when people call in van and troll in van. But the way we operate, we usually ask you to give remote access to the computer, and when lock the computer, your access to computer, and ask it for ransom. So, and here you can see like the link between numbers and different topics, like discussions between numbers with spot and the context of these numbers. And you can see like which companies, for example, was discussed in which day on Twitter. So this kind of brand awareness, it's another topic which is really useful if you collect information from social media networks. And of course, these topics are discussed on the underground. And despite like any other activities related to calls and SMS. So for example, if you need to register like Gmail account or like a social network account, and you need to receive SMS for this, this will cost between 3 and 35 cents per landing SMS. And it's usually like around 10 cents to receive like call or redirect the call. But if you look for the cost for chat support scam calls, it's $9 per call. So you can estimate how it monetizes it, at which scale it monetizes it. If we're able to pay like roughly $10 for any call landed on chat support. Where in our scam campaigns, like fixed matches announced and like sport events related activities on Twitter. So it's easy to spot too. And there is another sensitive, actually, topic related to, I would say, critical events. So there was a Eurovision campaign in Israel this year, and we can see in the news that there was an attempt to discriminate this campaign, like a boycott Israel campaign. And if you visualize the situation where, so there was just a number of accounts which was active, and there was a report, I think, from Israeli government where we analyzed this situation, and we shown particular accounts like bot accounts or bot-like accounts which promoted this campaign. So the message here, not about Israel or any country. The message here, like any critical event. So what we define as a critical event, it's something similar to critical infrastructure, but have a short lifespan. So for example, World Cup in Russia. There was like football World Cup last year. There was a day when two accounts on the Facebook, account of UEFA and account of one of the major sponsors, Gazprom, was ruined on the Facebook in terms of ranking. So there was a campaign when I think like was like thousands of like 1-star ranking was put during one day on both accounts, and for example, Gazprom just stopped ability to rank the page on the Facebook after this situation. So this is more important. So this cyber activity goes into critical events and can affect reputation of critical events like Olympic Games, like big exhibitions or World Cups. So, and now like the similar situation goes in the Hong Kong, you know, about street protests. And we don't want to comment if there was like bot activities or not. But we do have like a terms of service, and you can't reuse like a face from another person. So in here, like we can see a recently registered account, and if you look for this picture, you can find another person in the Instagram which used this account, and this is the probably a real person with like 23,000 followers. Another thing, we don't show the account, but we found account that was registered in 2013, roughly 6 years ago, and have no activities till the April this year, where this account heavily promoted Huawei positive way. And when the same account promoted information with somehow information about Hong Kong protests. So we have account which was 6 years without any posts when promotion of one campaign when it was hot, and another campaign when it's now hot. So, and if I look in some background, I don't know the story for this account, but on Russian Underground, you can buy Facebook and Twitter accounts, either which quite old. So because everybody consider a bot as account which was just registered. At the same as malicious domains, like if you see domain which was registered yesterday, and computer from your infrastructure connect to this domain, it looks suspicious. So the next stage of this was criminals registering hundreds of thousands accounts, and they either simulate activity or doing nothing for several years, and they will sell it at 100 or 10 times higher price. So it's possible to buy Facebook accounts which was registered in 2011, or Twitter accounts registered in 7 years ago. And probably the source of these kind of accounts was a special pool, which was used only when it was necessary. And since the accounts was registered 6 years ago, it's really hard to automatically understand what this account artificially promoting something. So another topic is analyzing groups like Anonymous, because they publicly announce attacks on particular infrastructures. So now Turkey goes hot, and where some activities expected from anonymous groups in Turkey, or the Turkey infrastructure. So, and if you visualize different, for example, hacking groups, you can spot links and connections. This is just an idea, and you can visualize it by following, by retweeting, by our activities on the social networks. So you can build different type of connections to understand the links between the groups. Are we collaborate? Are we related? Are we doing the similar things at the same time, and so on? Or, for example, you can try to correlate particular geopolitical events and group activities, to attribute which group match which country agenda, for example. So, and here's example of discussions, how different handles link it with discussions from the particular group. So I would say with social media is not the only, but one of the sources that can be easily leveraged to collect both actionable threat intelligence and situational awareness information. We gave some ideas, and we have some success with this. So if you are interested, you can reach us on, we can try to dig deeper in particular topic. If you need maybe presentation for your company or for your group, we did several presentations on the topic for community. So we can discuss anything. If you have questions, feel free to ask.
Hi, thank you. Do we have any questions?
Hello. About the anonymous tracking, how did you determine there were groups? I mean, they're all called anonymous, right?
You can link, for example, the group with so you can visualize who retweeted particular topic, which attributed by the group. And of course, there will be security researchers and our legitimate people.
So more of a second layer.
You can do several rounds of this to understand who is who. But it depends on the situation.
A lot of it's for the attribution is tracking over time. Yes, exactly. I mean you have to have putting in more details from tracking and what you've seen, and like you said, researchers and other people adding to the like you had, what was up there, Fancy Bear and a few of the other groups there. This is from other information. I mean, they're not putting their handles and like, these are our official handles. We're part of this APT group, you know. They're not doing that, right? It's more other information, surrounding information.
Yeah. So we actually published a paper or blog about this particular topic. So was several approaches used to track. So, but it's usually a semi-automated manual analysis. So it's not easy to do it like in just one round.
Right.
Like, okay, so hashtag anonymous. So it means everybody is anonymous. Let's blame them. Not like this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions?
So, it's the first question. So have you also seen these type of activities on other social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram being used as a C2 channel for any malware or anything like that?
I haven't seen Instagram yet, but we saw several other platforms accept the examples. So like Pastebin, for example, and some local Asian platforms has been used. So it's not a single case. So, but it takes some time to spot this. Like for the first time, but sometimes there was like a key messages, like with improper English, like several like mistakes in the words. And if you just Google, you can spot the same accounts like in blogs and social media platforms, which posted the same phrases, for example.
So why I'm asking this is because like in Twitter, we use hashtags. So in Facebook and Instagram to display our content. So is there any way we can like apply our similar technique over there and visualize all the data which is coming on Facebook and Instagram?
Yeah, as long as we share the data. I think after Cambridge Analytica, we're not willing to share data. We asked it several times actually for Facebook, but we didn't get a chance to dig deeper because we have no data. So I think it's possible to find, but you need access to the data.
Do we have any more questions from the crowd?
Great presentation. Have you done something with with like Bitcoins and stuff like that? Obviously, there's a lot of, like way to ramp up things and.
You mean activities when like a company goes public with new coin?
And
I think it was a movie from BBC, maybe, regarding this situation. So one of the companies went public with new coin, and at that time, like your site was like third on the Google, and two first was criminals. So we thought this. so were big spikes on this. And we just briefly look into coins where like Ponzi schemes on Twitter, like when both like Chinese and Russians promoting some predictions about coins and like some campaigns related to coins. So it's possible to find, but just not dig deeper.
Understood. And my second question is, not too long ago, Twitter took down a couple of accounts that's associated with Middle East activities. Do you have any comments on that?
Twitter takedown or not?
Yeah, so Twitter, the actual Twitter company, took down some closed down accounts that is associated with Middle East activities. Have you looked into that?
The situation with the Twitter, we mostly research this when we work on fake news research. And we had a big problems to take screenshots from Twitter, because as long as we processes that new data, we found like hundreds of bots, and we need a screenshot for the white paper. So next day we come and like 90% of them was taken down. So usually Twitter trying to take down many bot-related accounts, but we're looking for the policy. I think we barely can take down the account which really looks like a human, like an active human as long as evidence provided what it was like artificially managed.
Yeah, I'm actually alluding to deep fakes and stuff like that. But I guess
it's a common problem.
Yeah,
like deep fake topics.
Yeah, thanks.
We do have one more question.
I gave more time, so I present like for 40 minutes, just to give 20 minutes for questions.
Yeah, have you been able to find patterns that link these bot accounts and with actual profile accounts that people are using to expose their OPSEC?
So you mean like attribute to the bot master or attribute to particular humans?
Yeah, bot master.
So yes, we had several examples of this. I think one of the examples was published in Fake News Research. So and some people pretend that they are media agency owners, but if you look into accounts around them, it's like 3,000 of bots, or like very looks like a bots, like recently registered accounts with strange handles, which behaves exactly as the owner says. So owner says like, okay, let's tweet this. And then like 200 accounts tweet exactly the same. So, and the evolution of this was kind of pooling. So it's quite easy to spot for Twitter this kind of activity when bots say A and everybody retweets A. So the next stage was bots say, like today bots will say A, B, and C. And group of account posts C, group of account post B, and after timeout, group of accounts post A. And when we just promoting actually like generally like 5-10 topics during the day, but in the different order. So one of the next stages was remove like metadata, like text, and mostly send the pictures with the similar messages. So it's really hard to automate like picture recognition, like to understand the context of the pictures, especially if like meme or something like is used. So, but yes, and some people don't even try to hide. So we're done? Okay.
Hi, this is Kishore here from K7 Computing. What is the turnaround time for the information collected to come up with this graph? Question number one. And as a security vendor, what is the action taken by Trend Micro?
So usually we analyze slices day by day. So and like it takes like maybe like 1 or 2 hours as long as you made a slide to get a visualization. So you can do it almost in real time if you decrease the slices to like 1 or 2 hours. And regarding the actions taken by Trend Micro, so we collaborate with Twitter and we share bot feeds which we detected. So Twitter able to take down with bots. And so we help in community. We're trying to inform like some companies or like some certs if it sees something.
Hi. Question. Was there a possibility to trace down real people behind all these attacks or campaigns?
Sometimes people don't hide. So if you talk about like promotion, like negative information during particular events, so sometimes it's possible to understand particular people with your real name. And some people just admit what they're doing this.
So you see when anyone starts the campaign, there are many platforms they use. It's not only Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. There are like applications like WhatsApp, Telegram. Okay, so my question here is like, is there any common point among them, like where you can stop these kind of campaigns, like negative campaigns I'm talking mostly? Yeah. Okay, because even if we search on the Google, it shows the maximum number of hits that has got, like whether it is on Twitter, Facebook or any other place. But how you can track these in the messenger like applications which is being spread falsely and stop at the same time these negative campaigns?
So I can't comment on stop because it's up to the platforms. But in the terms of tracing, like for example, Telegram have API, and you can just feed discussions in particular groups into Elasticsearch, and like many researchers doing this now. So, for example, we have like a list of some Telegram groups where it is possible to join like for anybody. So, and you can just collect information and analyze this information the same way. So, but it's up to platform and platform functionality. But for many platforms, it's somehow possible. Not from our side. Maybe someone will come up.
Hi. I'm assuming you're using natural language processing and sentiment analysis when you're not. I mean, what I've seen, you've done it in English, but have you done it in any other languages? Like, for example, I'm having issues with Arabic, for example, and it's very difficult with those common dialects and common accents. I mean, because Arabic countries spread from, let's say, Morocco all the way to Iran, for example. And all that surface areas covered, they have different dialects, different pronunciations of different words. And it's a bit difficult to understand the direction, if it's positive sentiment or negative sentiment. So that's one of the issues that I'm facing. Have you faced any of those in other languages?
So we're trying to play with English and Russian language. So because I'm native speaker for Russian language, and I agree with you. But one of the attempts we made, we tried to enrich the dictionaries which use it to process with local slang related to particular context. So, for example, if you're looking into underground discussions, we use particular slang in particular country. And what we try to make like multiply mappings of the words used into the slang words. So, for example, like you're looking for credit card. You type in credit card, and the system will map credit card to like 10 slang words, use it to credit card automatically, and search for these words alongside. So this kind of approach, maybe this can help this idea. So it's like a next like post-processing, pre-processing stage before doing a query. So this maybe can help in your case too.
Thank you. We have a few questions from Slido. About the Twitter scammer handles, are the tweets indexed by handles? Like the printer scammer, are all tweets from that particular account indexed?
So regarding this situation, where like several indicators, and you can keep as much indicators as you can, as like phone numbers, handles, because everything have a limited lifetime. Because telecommunication operators can take down the phone, and they have to switch to another one, and Twitter can take down the handles, and it's not only going on Twitter. You can find it in many like blog platforms, the same advertisement with the same phone numbers, and there are existing like websites which like a twins for well-known companies, but with the same number as advertised by Twitter. So you can just circulate different types of indicators. So usually they are not dropping together. So like Twitter handle can be taken down, but the phone will be the same for the next 2 days. And then you can link it back to the new Twitter handle, for example.
Okay, and another question. Are there effective ways to shut down accounts used in campaigns? Will Twitter shut them down due to being reported? Some offensive groups use their followers as a distributed ban report attack against their opponents.
I think Twitter is very active in take down the fraud. So as long as it's possible to show what accounts violate a type of service, I think there is a high chance. Because what we saw, many accounts has been taken down in next 24 hours after we detect them.
Okay, and one last question. Could you tell us more about how the data is collected and processed, stored by you or your team from Twitter, for example?
So initially it's slices in CSV when we importing particular slices into Elasticsearch, trying to enrich the data with different libraries, which is like customized code. Maybe we'll share some code later. And when we're playing with visualization, so the most time we spent on this project is how to find the good visualizations. And I think we have some success. So another thing we not shown here was the context trees. So it's more bigger dependence, but it's impossible to show on the screen. So you have to scroll it. So, but there are like some other ways to visualize, but it's really save a lot of time. You can just look for like 20 seconds and understand the context about the situation in particular day on particular topic.
Great. Is there any more questions? Okay. Would the person who had the top question on Slido go behind and you will get a prize? Thanks. Let's all give a hand to Vladimir for his exceptional talk.